Cattle rearing forms an integral part of the lives of Kenya's rural communities. However, for many decades, farmers and pastoralists have had to cope with devastating cattle diseases that have affected their livelihoods. Among these killer diseases is rinderpest.
Rinderpest, commonly called cattle plague, is a highly fatal disease of domestic animals. It also can affect wildlife. Animals like the buffaloes, the antelopes, the kudus can also be affected.
Historical records are categorical that the most devastating introduction of rinderpest into Africa was the Great Pandemic that swept the entire continent within 7 years from 1890 to 1897, causing over 90% mortality in cattle populations and unquantifiable destruction of wildlife.
Animals basically have ocular discharges, and they may end up with blood diarrhea that is always almost 100% fatal.
Between the years 1890 to 1897, Eastern Africa recorded the rapid spread and devastating effects of rinderpest in cattle and wildlife populations, particularly buffaloes and eland in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. Between 1910 to 1960, control programs alleviated the spread of the disease, but it remained endemic with recurrent epidemics in cattle and wildlife populations throughout this period. October 2001. The last outbreak of rinderpest in Kenya was detected in buffaloes in Meru National Park.
The earlier methods of control, like the Maasais, used to mix the dung, the blood of the infected animals, and inoculate the healthy animals so that they can confer immunity. Later on, a lot of inoculations were done from the sick animals, but those early vaccines or inoculants did not always confer immunity.
Effective control depended on timely and reliable diagnosis. For a long time, diagnosis relied on clinical signs and post-mortem examinations. With time, more robust, sensitive and specific laboratory techniques were developed to augment the clinical diagnosis of the disease.
This is where we prepare the master bits for running the PCR. This was PCR working station. And also the master mix was provided by Iber.
The transboundary nature of the disease and huge economic losses incurred called for a regional control and eradication strategy. The African Union Inter-African Bureau of Animal Resources, Iber, and its precursors played a critical role in the coordination and implementation of control and eradication programs in Africa.
Let me take this opportunity on behalf of Iber to congratulate Kenya as it celebrates freedom from rinderpest. For Iber, as the continental body with the responsibility of providing leadership in the development of animal resources, and whose initial mandate specifically was to study and understand the disease dynamics of rinderpest in order to design appropriate control and eradication strategies. The achievement is a great milestone for Africa and the whole world, and indeed the veterinary science profession.
In Kenya, the following control and eradication programs have been implemented. The Joint Project Number 15, 1962 through to 1976, which focused mainly on vaccinations, marked the beginning of regionally coordinated control programs funded mainly by the European Union.
The European Union was not alone in working with Iber. Member states of Europe were as well collaborating with us, and we had a very strong relationship and coordination between the European Commission on one hand and several member states on the other hand. But it was also the Japanese cooperation, the American cooperation, the Swiss cooperation, which were all together joining forces on that disease.
The Pan-African Rinderpest Campaign, PARC, of 1986 through to 1998 focused on mass vaccination. It was funded by the European Union and the government of Kenya.
The European Union is very proud of its collaboration with the Iber Bureau of the African Union over the last 25-30 years. Of course, this control and eradication of rinderpest was at the core of this collaboration with Iber. And overall, it's several hundred million of euros which have been managed with Iber and through Iber to the benefit of many African countries. But today we see the fruit of that effort, and we have Africa and the world which are on the verge of declaring the control and the eradication of an animal disease from the world.
Pan-African Control of Epizootics Program, PACE, 1999 through to 2007, whose main thrust was disease surveillance, was funded by the European Union and the government of Kenya.
We go on with the continuous surveillance. We do what we call stomatitis enteritis. This may be complex syndrome approach, and we continually survey the diseases that would be like rinderpest to be sure on every year basis that we do not have the disease.
The success brings in food security, improved livelihoods, access to markets for livestock and livestock products, and improved national economies in general. The lessons learned from rinderpest eradication will serve as a model for the control of other diseases which continue to cause havoc on the African continent.
The Somali Ecosystem Rinderpest Eradication Coordination Unit, SERECU, under AU Iber 2006-2010, funded by the European Union and the government of Kenya, continued with surveillance and final verification of absence of rinderpest in Kenya and the neighboring Ethiopia and Somalia. The European Union, EU, has been the main financier for control and eradication of rinderpest for over 5 decades, providing financial and technical assistance for the campaigns in Africa and in Kenya specifically.
And the EU is very happy to contribute to new ventures and new prospects and new ideas in the overall program of the African Union Commission.
Kenya was certified free from rinderpest by the World Organization for Animal Health on the 26th of May 2009.
Rinderpest has been eradicated in our area, and we thank the government very much. It used to be so deadly.
I would like to conclude by emphasizing the continued for sustained vigilance and the need for further investment in the livestock industry, in particular animal health.
All the donor community can be very proud of the success of the eradication of rinderpest, not only in Africa, which was a difficult venture, but also in Asia, in several places of Asia. It's a very substantial amount of money which has been brought forward, close to 400 million euros worldwide, 220 million euros only in Africa on the eradication of rinderpest.
The Department of Veterinary Services appeals to Kenyans for continued support in consolidating this achievement and in the control of other animal diseases. The Ministry of Livestock Development invites you to celebrate Kenya's freedom from rinderpest in Meru National Park from the 24th through to the 26th November 2010.